Hi guys, I'm Kelly with Mid-Peninsula Moms Blog, and today I'm here again with our contributing writer and resident sleep expert, Dr. Sarah Mitchell from Helping Babies Sleep. And today we're talking about newborns, 5 tear-free ways to help your newborn sleep. Congratulations, you have a newborn and now you're sleep deprived. It is a phase, it will get better. And Sarah has some great tips for us today that will hopefully help make this a little bit easier. We have some questions that were emailed in to us, and you can always ask them live as well. The first question I have for you is, what is a newborn?
What is a newborn?
How long does that last, that stage?
Well, technically, it's really short, actually. It's 0 to 28 days is technically a
28
newborn.
28 days?
Yeah.
That's great. I was thinking like 3 months, 4 months.
Well, a lot of us still kind of refer to newborn between 0 and 3 months.
Okay.
Because the end of the 4th trimester is like 4 months when they start waking up to the world around them.
Okay.
So there's some subjectivity to that definition, depending on if you're talking to like a medical expert or if you're talking to a consultant
or
your
a sleep-deprived mom.
Yeah.
And she's like, I have a newborn. He's 6 months old.
Yes, they're still pretty timely. But technically that 4th trimester is one of the reasons people talk about 0 to 3 months.
Okay. All right. So that's the official newborn stage.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what can we do to help?
Tear-free,
no tears.
To help.
Yes.
Yeah. So the first tip is to start feeding when your baby wakes up rather than feeding to sleep. There's nothing wrong with feeding to sleep at all.
Mm-hmm.
These are just suggestions to kind of help establish sleep habits. So feeding on wake up, it's part of the easy routine, right?
Okay.
Eat, activity, then they sleep, and then you have a little bit of you time while they're sleeping.
Oh, I love
That's
this.
where that came from. That's by Tracy Hogue, the baby whisperer.
Activity. So they wake up, you feed them, you have a little bit of activity, which when they're really little isn't very much, right?
It's existing, really.
Right.
Yeah.
It's existing. It's saying, hi, baby.
Yeah.
Okay. And then so eat, activity, sleep, and then a little you time.
A little bit of you time.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Easy.
Absolutely.
Easy.
It's easy. There's nothing wrong with having your baby sleep on you.
Okay.
Because here's the thing. When you have a newborn, your first goal is about keeping your child well rested. Okay. And then the second goal is to use tools in your parenting toolbox that aren't really hard for you to maintain.
Okay.
So for example, if your child has to nap on you for every single nap, that can get kind of tiring after 3 months.
Right. And that's hard for you because that nap time is you time.
You're not getting it.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
You're not getting it. So your other tools in your toolbox might be, the carrier or a swing or the crib or
that little vibrating thing.
The vibrating chair, things, a variety of tools in your toolbox.
Okay.
So keep your baby well rested and try and promote healthy habits that aren't totally a burden to you, like having to swing your child in the car seat.
Right. So you want to, when you're starting out in the beginning, you want to keep all of those things in mind because you don't want to start a bad habit.
Yeah, exactly. Now, things don't always go the way we plan. So don't beat yourself up if you are having to have your child nap on you now.
And sometimes you just have to do what works.
You just have to do what works sometimes,
right?
But the idea would be that you feed them on wake up and then you use some other tool to help get them to fall asleep. You always help, but maybe that means that you're, rocking before putting down drowsy, or maybe you're using the swing to help you out, or maybe you're using the stroller to help you out. The most important thing comes to tip number 2, which is watch the clock.
Okay.
Because it's your job to know when your child needs to sleep. So at the very beginning, they basically they wake up, they feed, and they fall back asleep. But slowly they'll have more awake time, the time between sleeps. And it's your job
to watch the clock.
To watch the clock and get them back to sleep before they get overtired.
Right. When we've talked about this before, if your child is overtired, that makes everything way more complicated.
Right.
So when you have them during their awake time, you really need to watch the clock to make sure you don't pass that point.
Right. If you keep them up awake too long, you know what happens, right? They get harder to put down. They have shorter naps, more night waking, and early morning wake ups.
And so how do you know how long they should be awake?
So for a newborn, 0 to 3 months, the maximum is about an hour and a half, and 45 minutes is very common at the beginning. So that's from being awake to being back asleep, not when you start the bedtime routine.
But actually being asleep.
Yeah, being asleep.
And does that include the time that you're feeding them too? Because they're awake when they're feeding. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So like a 2-month-old, their awake time might be, just over an hour. And the other thing with awake times is they're always a little bit shorter first thing in the morning. So from wake up to the first nap is always the shortest awake time of the day.
Because they're still kind of tired from.
That's
kind of how I am too.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, perfect. Let's check in. Okay, good. We're good. So what's number 3?
So number 3 is to learn the Dunstan baby language.
Dunstan baby
Have you ever
language.
heard of this before?
Okay.
So she was on opera, so she must be legit, or she was on Oprah, so she must be legit, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I got that stumbled with opera because she's actually an Australian opera singer who
Oh, wow.
noticed that child's cries have different meanings. And she created this app. It's like a $5 app that can go on your phone.
Okay.
Or you can Google YouTube Oprah Dunstan baby and go check out her appearance on Oprah and learn the different sounds. And basically,
maybe we can link that after this too. We can link it into the video.
Yeah. And basically the idea that your child's cries have certain meaning,
Mhm.
especially neigh, which is the sound for feeding. And if you say neigh, you'll notice that your tongue goes to the roof of your mouth.
Mhm.
And when your child is hungry, they naturally bring their tongue up to the roof of their mouth looking for the nipple. That's the
So there actually is like a hunger cry.
There's a hunger cry, there's a tired
and
cry.
it's like a neigh sound.
Neigh sound, yeah.
I know the hurt cry. Like even with my older children now,
Right.
if they're in the other room and they're doing something and then I hear something, if they start crying a certain way, I know they're really hurt. They have different cries, but I never knew this about newborns.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's a little bit of a learning curve. Like you think they'll like all of a sudden blurt out neigh like right away. No, they'll cry for a little bit, like maybe 30 seconds, a minute, and then you'll hear it. So you do have to kind of, be prepared to listen to that for a little bit to try and distinguish it.
Okay.
But it's super helpful. Like,
and then you would know they're hungry.
They're hungry.
Because sometimes
they're
as a
tired.
newborn, one of the difficult things is you don't know sometimes why they're crying. Maybe they have a diaper, they need a diaper change, maybe they're hungry, maybe they're tired.
Yeah.
And so that's actually really cool.
Yes. And it's particularly helpful in the witching hour. So the witching hour is legitimate, right? Between 6 and 9 when they're really fussy at the end of the day. And the reasons for that are varied. One theory is that, your milk supply is lower at the end of the day, so they need to feed more frequently if you're breastfeeding to get the ounces that they need in. The other theory is that they're just really tired at that time of day, and so they're fussier.
This has been a long day.
And another theory again is that if you don't burp them enough through the daytime, then that becomes gas that needs to escape by the end of the day.
And they get gassy during that time.
Who knows if that's a theory though.
The witching hour.
But the witching hour is real. So some people will say it takes me a couple hours to get my child to fall asleep, and that's part of that witching hour that should pass around 10 to 12 weeks of age.
10 to 12 weeks. What about the witching hour for toddlers? I think that still exists.
Absolutely. Do you notice that it coincides with happy hour?
Okay, cool. All right, cool. So we should check out this baby language. So we'll put the link. That's really interesting.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool.
Okay. All right. What about number 4?
Number 4 is to use the swaddle.
So swaddle.
Yeah. Often parents will say to me, well, my child doesn't like it. And I say, try again. That's another like extra tip for
Don't give up right away.
Don't give up on something that you tried. Give it another chance. Maybe change the variables, the timing of day. And so often I'll find like people often use the swaddle when they're desperate and it doesn't work. Well, would anything have worked at that time?
Probably
their child
not.
is so overtired. So don't give up on the swaddle. It helps reduce that moral reflex, that startle response, and just keep them contained and feeling safe.
So we used to call that the conductor.
Yeah.
Both of my kids did it, and they would be like in the little swing and in like such a cute little sleep, and then all of a sudden be like dun dun, and we'd be like, oh, it's the conductor again. But they do, and it wakes them. So if they're not, swaddled tightly, it can really wake them up.
Absolutely, you can definitely.
What's that called again? The moral
reflex or the startle reflex.
Yeah. And when does that go away?
Around 3 to 4 months.
Okay. 3 to 4 months. Okay. So try the swaddle. Try it again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the last tip is to be an observer.
Okay.
Right. And it kind of goes back to that, what we just talked about, is that sometimes what we try doesn't necessarily work. And there's a sense of panic that we need to stop the tears right away. And this is tear-free ways. But, sometimes watch their body language. If you can get the Dunstan baby language down and then kind of correlate that to their body language, you can become such a good detective on what's bugging your child. Because root cause, what's the root cause? I've been in houses where I see a child sit and nurse for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, get put down, and then start fussing, and then get picked up and put to the breast again. And it's like, well, she just ate, so maybe she needs to burp. Yeah. Like, what other tools do you have in your toolbox? Other than when in doubt, whip it out to help. So I'm sure any lactation consultant watching right now would be like, when in doubt, whip it out. That's not my philosophy, because I deal with people who have sleep troubles. And what they've done a lot is when in doubt, whipped it out, and then masked what was really bothering their child. And they taught their child, I did this too,
to eat around the clock, which is also
that the boob
hard.
is a soother.
Which is also hard to break later on when they get a little bit older.
And any bad habits that you set up right now, let's just be clear, they are fixable later on. And so we always go back to your number one goal. goal, keep your child well rested.
Right. And do what you need to do.
And do what you need to do.
Right.
Yeah.
We just are going to give you these tools, and then you can pick and choose to see what works for you.
Exactly.
And don't compare yourself to other people. We've talked about this before as well.
Absolutely.
It's really easy to do that actually when you're a new mom with a newborn, even if it's your second or third child. Okay, we have a couple questions. People are joining us. Hi guys, let us know if you have any questions. And we have some here. My baby is 2 months old. What are the signs of fatigue I should look for?
Yeah, so fatigue signs can be kind of tricky at times. I'm going to go over 2 sets of signs.
Okay.
So the first subtle set is when you've been kind of like maintaining eye contact with your 2-month-old, and then she doesn't want to meet it anymore. She's getting tired. Or
like looking distracted, like she looks away from you or something?
She doesn't want to maintain eye contact.
Okay.
Another one is that her limbs start to like get tired, and looking kind of like dazed out, basically. That's your subtle set, and you should go start your bedtime or nap time routine at that time.
Okay, so this is about like looking at the clock and really watching and looking at your child and being aware that, oh, she looks a little fatigued.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Coordinating 2 sets of the clock and the signs.
Okay.
And then there's a more pronounced set of signs that people are more familiar with the yawning, rubbing your eyes, getting fussy. And by that time, you should be in the room already.
That probably comes later, right?
That comes later.
Yeah.
And often people are catching those a little bit too late. And then their child's already overtired, and it's harder to put her down at that time.
Okay.
So if you can coordinate signs and the clock at this age, that can be really helpful.
Okay.
Really powerful.
So you want to look for those early signs.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
What happens? Oh, this used to happen to me. What happens if my baby falls asleep while I'm feeding?
So if that's cool with you, if that's what you're working on and that works for you, then just
that used to happen with my first son.
Yeah.
He would wake up, and then I would start nursing him, and then he would fall asleep, and then it would be time for him to wake up again to play. It was a little confusing. But yeah, what do you do if that happens?
Well, I think it goes back to what's your philosophy and what are you working on? So if that happened, I would never really make them wake up, but I would ask myself, like, was the timing of my feed appropriate? Did I misread the signs of fatigue for hunger?
Right.
And I fed instead of putting to sleep? Or is that just my MO that this is what I'm doing? I'm nursing to sleep and I'm totally fine with that. And if it wasn't my MO, let's say I'd been working really hard at doing the easy routine, like feeding on wake up.
Yeah.
So if he just woke up and then I nursed him and he fell back to sleep, mental note to self, he wasn't really ready to wake up.
Right.
And what other tool can I use next time to help him back to sleep without necessarily feeding?
I used to take his little foot out of the jammies if he was starting to fall asleep while we were nursing, because I would be like, oh, you just were asleep. And I would take his little foot out, and then I would rub his little foot, and that would kind of keep him awake and engaged for a little bit.
And that's a really good point. Like, again, what's the scenario around this? Because are we talking about a drowsy child who has feeding issues, who needs to be kept awake so they can get more calories in? Or are we just talking about like a nap scenario where maybe they weren't ready to wake up? So there's another little quick tip is like naps. Every time they wake up, you don't have to necessarily jump and run and pick them up. Pause. Be an observer. Watch them on the monitor.
Oh, because they might go back to sleep.
They might go back to sleep.
Okay.
Yeah, just give it like 2 minutes.
And just see what happens.
See what's going to happen.
Okay. What happens if mommy falls asleep during the feeding? That happened to me too. There was this one night where I fell asleep while I was breastfeeding in the rocking chair, and I woke up like an hour later, and both of us were asleep, and he had only fed from one side, so the other side was completely engorged, and it was just, oh my gosh, I was so upset. But those things happen.
That happens. I remember waking up like this, like with him in my arms and my head straight down.
Yeah.
And in your scenario, you know, what I would do is I would try and get him to latch on the other side and feed the other side. So at least you can get like another little bit of a longer stretch before he wakes up again.
Right.
But you just have to roll with ourselves.
Yeah, I know.
Absolutely.
There's certain moments that you just never forget. You know, I'm like, I'll never forget that moment.
Me too.
I know. Okay, we have a 3-month-old question. I have a 3-month-old. He used to be a champion sleeper with a 6 to 8 hour stretch. That's really good. And now he's waking every 3 hours. What can I do to stop the wake ups and get those golden stretches back?
Right.
That's hard, like a regression.
So that's probably, it says 3 months, but we don't know how close to 4 months that child actually is. And it's likely the 4-month sleep regression, which can happen anytime between 3.5 and 4.5 months. And the concept behind the 4-month sleep regression is object permanence. So your child is waking up to the world around them, and they know that you exist even though they can't see you. And so they cry.
They want you to come back.
Yes, they're testing this mental leap. And so what can she do at this stage is you actually just want to let him sit in this leap and help him through this sleep by responding to his cries. And then after,
and letting him know that you're there,
letting him know that you're there,
and knowing that this is just a leap and a phase, and he'll probably go back.
Well, maybe the 4-month sleep regression. Do you remember it?
I remember the phrase. Yeah. Like, I remember it being a thing, but I don't actually, the whole thing is a blur.
Yeah. So
probably because I was up all night.
Yeah. Like, they don't really go back to sleeping those 6 to 8 hours without some sort of a push to do that.
To do it. Okay.
Yeah. And whatever that is for you.
Okay.
You know, maybe it's rocking instead of nursing, or maybe it's, but usually if you're up every 3 hours nursing during the 4-month sleep regression,
something
or rocking,
needs to change.
Yeah, you're going to have to do something at some point.
Okay. Okay.
Exactly.
Do we have any questions? Hi, Charlene. Okay, what do we do during the witching hour? For me, it's 5 to 10.
Right. I'm sorry that it's so long for you. That is a long time, 5 to 10.
Yes.
So this goes back to, we kind of touched on this briefly, right? It's kind of a natural thing because our milk supply tends to be the lowest if you're breastfeeding at this time. So it's natural that they're kind of catnapping almost and taking more feeds during this time.
Yeah.
Know that this shall pass, like 10 to 12 weeks, it should pass. And one of the things you can do is during the day, go back to our number one goal, which is keep your child well rested. So the more naps and rests that your child can get through the day can help you in the witching hour.
Okay.
And then, what time should bedtime be for your baby at this age? So one common error is that people have in their heads, I'm going to put my baby to bed at 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock is going to be your bedtime. Try and base your bedtime on when your child woke up from his last nap. So if he's waking up at 6 and he's like 3 months, back asleep by 8:30.
Okay.
And in general, 4 months, 7:30 seems to be kind of a trend that happens. At 3 months, that might be like 8 to 8:30. And for like 0 to 2 months, it's often 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock before they fully settle down.
Right.
And just keep trying to help your child. Lots of burping, bicycles,
so because you said
swaddling.
it could be the gas from the feeds during the day.
Yeah.
Okay, so bicycling.
They may have to feed more frequently if you're breastfeeding because your milk supply is lower at the end of the day. You kind of like pick a cycle. So it's like my cycle was swaddle, burp, bounce around the room, put down. While he or she was in the crib, I would try and kind of like sway her body back and forth a little bit to make her drowsy while in the crib instead of on me.
Okay.
So I'm still helping
her. That's a good tip.
Yeah.
But they're not actually laying on you.
Exactly.
Okay.
Trying that for being observer and not giving it enough time to be successful, like for 5 or 10 minutes. And if it still wasn't working, I would start that again. Up, burping, walking, bouncing, back down. And if that didn't work, then I was like, maybe I added a nursing to that session. Maybe that's what that needed.
And you would just kind of rotate.
And just keep going. And same with burping. Like some kids are harder to burp than others, especially kids with reflux. And so pick like 3 burping positions and rotate through them.
So you're trying them all.
Yeah.
To see what works.
Things. Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. So hopefully that's helpful.
Hopefully that will help.
Yeah.
Okay. I find it hard to put my 8-week-old down at nighttime. He takes forever to fall asleep. This is stuff that we can touch on again. Sometimes I struggle for 2 hours. What can I do? That's a long time.
Yeah. So basically kind of everything that I just went over. And then if you're breastfeeding, you ask yourself, is there anything that I ate today that's really bothering him?
So maybe you need to eliminate that from your diet.
So I specifically remember having a Diet Coke at 7 o'clock one night, and my child was inconsolable between 2 and 3 in the morning. I just did that little routine I just talked about over and over and over again. And people always think wheat and dairy, but I find like high sugar items to cause digestive issues with a lot of kids, like handfuls of chocolate almonds. And,
but that's so
I know,
good.
it's your reward, right?
Right.
Because like, have you ever felt fully full when you're breastfeeding?
No, you're
just
starving.
Starving all the time.
Yeah.
But take a look at that if it's a constant thing. And then remember, go back to your number one goal, keep your child well rested so that as much as you can during the day will help your nights. Like days and nights are so intrinsically linked.
Okay.
They are so intrinsically linked.
Okay. What time, we just kind of talked about this. What time should bedtime be for a 2-month-old?
Right. So that kind of goes back to the idea that you're trying to
base look
it
at
on
that nap, right?
Yeah, when your last nap happens. But in general, like 2-month-olds, it might be like 8-ish. And then by 2-3 months, 8-ish, maybe 9-ish. And then by 4 months, it's definitely coming down to like 7:30.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to see what works.
Yes.
She said, thank you, ladies. You're welcome.
Yeah.
We have a couple more minutes if anyone else wants to ask anything live. Also, we'd love to keep this conversation going. This video will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. If you have not checked it out, please do so. It has all of our fun videos. and continue to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. You have a class. Do you want to tell them about your class?
Sure. Yeah. So I have a class called A to Z's. It's for babies 4 to 24 months. It's an online class that you can take on your own time, on your tablet, on your telephone, and then you can add a phone call with me to it. So if you if you get to that point where you're through the 4-month sleep regression and things haven't improved, then this is the course for you. It'll teach you everything you know about how to get your child to sleep, how to set them up for success, and a whole bunch of other parenting skills.
Perfect.
All that skills.
Okay, great. And also, I'm going to be at the SF Birth and Baby Fair on Sunday, November 11th in San Francisco. So please come by and say hello. I can actually put the link in this post. Yeah. And if you follow us on our sister site, San Francisco Moms Blog, we'll have some information on the blog on Friday about the SF Birth and Baby Fair.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. We'll see you guys next time.